Welcome to Two Humans Talking, the podcast that talks about what it takes to be healthy and stay healthy in a modern, fast paced world. And I'm Tiffany Simms, your host. And today we are talking about love. And I know, sometimes when we talk about health, we immediately go to how much you weigh, how fast you can run, how much you can squat. But if you haven't been around a minute, you know that health is so much more than just your physical body. It's your emotional well-being and how you're showing up in every different aspect of your life. And that's relationships and love. And so today I am here with Caroline and we are going to jump in it. Talking to her behind the scenes has been so exciting. And so I can't wait for you guys to hear where this conversation goes. So Caroline, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Tiffany. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yay. So tell us who you are, where do you live, what do you do, like what makes you you?
Yeah. My name is Caroline Mier, and I am a dating burnout coach, and I live in Seattle. And I have a daughter who is 17, and and a wonderful partner, and a really cute dog, and a little snake. And I was a chef for about 10 years, and I used to be a white glove matchmaker, and I went to art school. So those are funny things about me. I'm Vietnamese, and I was my family was the first Vietnamese family in Minnesota, which is a fun fact about
You
me.
are just bundle of fun. So many fun facts about you. I
So
love this.
many fun facts.
I think having the guests that we've had on the show introduce themselves, it's so exciting and fun for me because like the things that people bring up and like we all have the thing we're good at, right? But at the end of the day, every single one of us are just humans with a life and a story that led us to a moment where we might have a message to share with someone. And so I get really excited about hearing about the bits and pieces that make up the people that I get to talk to. And so that's really, really cool. You said your daughter's 17.
Yes.
What is it like being a burnout coach to people who are like struggling finding love and they're a little exhausted from the dating scene and the whiplash of past relationships? What is that like raising a 17-year-old with everything that you've learned?
You know, it's really funny. One of the things my daughter and I really like to do, and what was great that we came out of the pandemic at her age, at the age she was when we came out of that, was that I now had this built-in concert buddy, and I love live music and I love going to concerts, and so we made up for it. Like the first year when concerts were really back, we were going all the time, and so there's a venue in Seattle called White River Amphitheater. If anyone lives here, you know that getting in and out of that parking lot is absolutely awful. So I'm going to tell you a little story. So, um, you can like park and then like get on a bus and then it'll take you there, but you're still stuck in the same traffic. You're just like not actively driving. So it's the benefit is kind of anyway. So we're sitting on a bus, and I think it was after Halsey potentially. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen Halsey live, like go see Halsey live. Like, why wouldn't you? She's amazing. They're amazing. Anyway, so my daughter was telling me, Mom, you would not believe all the things that my friends like just don't understand. And I was like what? And so basically, like all their kind of like relationship issues and their like choices and the things that they're doing and the things that they're saying and the lessons they're taking, she's like, Mom, this isn't how it works. And I realized that none of their parents are talking to them about this. And when I explain things to them, they go, How do you know this? And I say, Well, my mom's always talked to me about this. And my philosophy as a parent has always been like, what really matters? Right. So when I had a child, like I remember, so her father and I, like, we were married for 10 years. And I think about like our goals, and they were extremely different for parenting, which
Mhm.
isn't, a great way to go into it. Right. But it's like, how do you measure your success as a parent? And on the one hand, you can say like achievement, right? Where it's like, are you a human doing? Are you a human being? So that's a human doing thing, right? Like, what is the measure of your product? And so you get good grades, you're obedient, things like that. And my goal as a parent was to raise a child who feels happy and fulfilled in her life, has strong relationships, and feels secure enough to, to do things, to execute, to try new things, and to like take risks and put herself out there, because that's how you really grow and you really learn. And so those are very different things, right? Because I know that like nobody checked my grades. Do you know what I mean? And I was like a B student. I could have been a better student, but once it was over, nobody was checking. And I went back to college as an adult, and it was just like, did you pass? Do you have the credits? It wasn't like, what grade did you get? That was not the question. And so I just thought, well, okay, well, this doesn't matter. Like, what really matters is like how I feel about my life. And if I go get this degree and I never really use it, the fact is I went back to school and I got a degree as a single parent, and I did that. So that's for me, right? And so I wanted her to always like have that feeling like you can take these risks, you can try these new things. Life isn't nothing is linear, nothing is etched in a tablet that you presenting on a mountain, you're allowed to write your own script and try new things. And so that that was like that made me feel like okay, I'm actually like I did it. I did it okay.
That's a
The proof
really,
isn't, we're still cooking the pudding, but
I think that's really, really amazing. Like, because there's so many people now who are like, I feel like we're in an anti-hustle culture, and I don't believe that hustle is bad. I think hustling for the wrong things and after the wrong things is bad, but that
Mhm.
things that you want to achieve require effort and work. And so that I'm not opposed to. But like I love your philosophy and how like just that encouraging her to take risks, because that translates to the relationships, what kind of risks she takes and how she rebounds from that, to career
Mhm.
choices, financial choices, like all of the things.
Mhm.
That's really, really cool. And that really like digs back, at least my brain says like that's really developing like that internal ability to love yourself through everything. And if you're loving yourself through everything, then you're able to make really good choices, character assessments of other people, because you're not trying to fill a hole, right? And so you
A
can really see people.
100%. I mean, the relationship you have with yourself is the definition of every relationship you'll ever have in any respect.
That's a
That's
hard thing
that's
to
it.
hear sometimes.
It is a very hard thing to hear, and it's not like I woke up loving myself. Absolutely not, right? Like it is a journey and you work on it every day. You never go like, I've reached the zenith of loving myself and I couldn't possibly love myself anymore, right? That like never happens. You will always be working on changing how you talk to yourself, how you treat yourself, how you care for yourself, right? Because loving yourself, like self care, is how you show yourself that you love yourself. So it's not just like getting massages or pedicures, although those are great.
Thank you for saying that.
It's kind of like the like when you become a mom, they're like, so she likes flower pots and bathrobes. And I'm like, you know what? What if I don't? What if that's not my only definition? What if I like a lot of other things, right?
I
Like I
really
don't
think that
fit into
loving
one.
yourself, like if you love yourself, you eat in a way that says, I care about myself. And that doesn't mean
Yes.
that you're restrictive and that you're dieting and doing crazy things, but it's like you care about yourself enough that you're paying attention to how you eat and how you move your body affects you on a daily basis.
Yes. Oh,
That I believe is like
absolutely.
number one self-care thing, is like how are you taking care of yourself? And like massages and pedicures are nice and they're delicious and they're delightful, but they're like the sprinkles on top of a cupcake.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. And
No
it's
one's
like,
just eating spoonfuls of sprinkles. Like it just doesn't work.
no, and they're not good if you've
They're
ever
not
tried
really
it.
that great if you try to eat them
Yeah.
by themselves.
Yeah. Jimmy's aren't candy, like, but if you think about like, how do I want to feel? And then you work backward from there, right? So if you want to feel like I'm going to get through this like 6 hour block of expenditure of my energy, how am I going to eat going into that 6 hour block? And how am
Yes.
I going to keep my energy going? Not like, you know, how am I restricting myself right now? It's like, do I
Yes.
want to feel full or better later? Like yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And I think that's one of the things I work on with my clients, like how I came up with the whole like we need to address dating burnout is because like you need to think about how you want to feel in the future in your relationship. We're going to work backward
Yes.
and then
The
align
thing,
yourself to that goal the same way you do with anything else, the same way you do with, you want to be a marketing manager, you go get a degree in marketing, you stay up on it, you get your
you take
newsletters, you
courses in communication, written and verbal. You learn how time management and productivity skills that you've never developed before.
Mhm.
Like, why would that be any different? I love that approach that you were just sharing. There's two things that came popped into my head. One of them, when we were talking about self-care, I was like, self-care was me saying, can we have a dance party before we get going? My body is a little tight because I've been
Yeah.
sitting for a long time. That's self-care. That's loving
Yes.
myself and
Yeah.
not caring if you were going to join me or not.
Yeah, yeah, it's your care for yourself is not dependent upon what other people approve of as your
I
care for
invited you to
yourself.
the
Like it's
party.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
had a great time. We looked fabulous. But like your response to yes or no wasn't going to impact what I did for myself. And as I
Mhm.
was thinking about that and hearing the words that you were sharing, it was like, loving myself, you said like it doesn't just stop and you don't just become this version of yourself where you like, okay, I've loved myself to the max. That's it. And it really gave me an opportunity, which I think is so beautiful. So thank you. It gave me an opportunity to recognize that loving myself is the constant rediscovery of things I either had forgotten or hadn't learned about myself yet. And then I was like, that is the same in a romantic relationship or a relationship with a parent or a really close bestie. Like they thrive when you're constantly learning new things and discovering new and deeper levels with each other.
I I feel like I mean, yeah, it's like I hope no one ever stops discovering themselves. I hope no one ever stops learning about themselves or something they might enjoy or trying new things. And I know that, you meet people who kind of have like kind of fluid ways of going about life and some people who feel very fixed, right? And some people are just going to feel fixed and they're going to say like these are the things I'm going to do and I don't want to and my instinct on everything is to say no first,
I
right?
learned
That
everything I
is
needed to know about life when I graduated high school.
yeah, or you like invite them to do something and like they just like say no right away because they haven't done it before and they just say no as a reflex. And like a reflexive no costs you. It will cost you forever. It will cost you so many experiences. And it's okay to say no to things, but not reflexively. Like,
Share a
please
little
be
bit more about
thoughtful.
that for the person that might not understand what a reflexive no really is. Can you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, well, it's so funny is like, because I grew up in Minnesota and we had this joke that Minnesotans have to say no 5 times before you can accept anything. So someone offers you a cup of coffee, you have to say like, no, 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 I don't want to be put to any trouble. And they basically have to say, I'm making it anyway. And you're like, are you sure? No, it's fine. And then they have to be like, I'm going to dump the whole pot into the sink and waste it. Are you sure you don't want a cup? And then you're like, oh, okay, yes. Right. And you can't expect another person to go to that effort all the time. Like that social contract is kind of ridiculous. And you can't think that that's always going to be available to you. So if you get an invitation or an offer, somebody asks you to do something like you like think about it instead of just saying no because it sounds unfamiliar, right? And then thinking that you'll get another chance. You might not. You might not get another chance at that. So think about if you actually want to say no to that because it also I mean, you're making paths in your brain all the time about how you think about something. It's constant, right? And so you just imagine your brain is a forest and you're on a hiking trail. And every time you choose a path, that path is going to get a little more well worn. So do you
I
want the
love
path
that
to know
analogy.
to be a better, like the one with the wood chips on it, and it's like an easy, smooth path to know to be more worn than the path to yes, or maybe, or I'll think about it, like
That is such an
give
amazing
yourself
analogy.
options.
I'm
So
borrowing that.
good, good. Because I think that it's like the That's what I always think about when if I have like, especially like a bad thought about myself, like, well, maybe this like isn't right or whatever. And my brain doesn't know that I'm just like musing on something. It thinks I'm saying this isn't right. And because it didn't work out the first time. So
Yeah.
you have to think about like your lessons that
Yeah.
you're taking in and then how you're phrasing them and thinking about them. And you can,
And how we're training other people to interact with us. A really big culture shock in my current relationship for him in the beginning was like, I am very much a woman who believes that I can only take you at your word, right? I can't read into it because you didn't say it. And so, like, I've really worked hard on not making stories up in my head about what I think you mean, and just
mm,
what you said is what you meant. And so, like, there was a lot of like, but that's not what I said. What I meant was, and I'm like, but that's not what you said. Or he will say, he would assume that if I said, no, I'm really good, he was assuming it was like that woman thing where I'm fine means like, why don't you know what's wrong with me? And we had to have that like moment of learning of like,
mhm.
no, really, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that I think and feel. And when there's something I'm not okay with, like I will articulate that to you, but do not put words in my mouth that I didn't say because I don't like that.
Yeah.
Like that's not
Yeah.
fair. But you sharing that was that reminder of like, oh yeah, there are some social norms and social contracts where it's like you don't actually say what you mean, and we have to get to the point through poking and prodding. And that's not like that just feels like such a waste in how so many things like blow up.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Like you need to trust your partner to be telling you what what they actually feel and that they know themselves. And I mean, my partner is the same way. Like, you know, I think he, had definitely had that experience of having somebody try to interpret his feelings for him or to like push him or something like that. And he was like, "Yeah, it's a real problem because you need to trust that if I said it's okay, like it's okay." And
Mm-hmm.
so that freed me from, because he's more introverted. And so that freed me from feeling like if we were at a gathering that I needed to like make sure he was like included and stuff like that. I was like, he's an adult. Like
Isn't that funny?
if he wants to sit over there, he can sit. That's fine, right?
I can
And
check in, make sure he's good, but if he says he's good, I need to let him be and go do me.
yeah, but do you know how many people who like, and this is the thing, and I tell the story like a lot because it is so common. But when I was matchmaking, one of the questions we would ask was, are you introverted or extroverted? And nobody is all one thing, right? But it's like, where do you tend to go? And then what do you want in a partner? And now extroverted people were like, I don't necessarily need them to be totally extroverted or anything, but I need them to be able to manage themselves at a party. Like it's not my job to drag them out and it's not my job to handhold them. Like they need to be able to handle themselves in social situations and it's not like my responsibility to get them to go or to talk to people or whatever. So they had all been in that relationship before. They did not like it and they didn't want it because they were like, it's not, why do I have a job now?
Yes.
Like that's not really fair to me. All the introverted people said, I would like someone more extroverted to get me out and about more and stuff like that. And it was just like, oh my gosh. Like
Like I admire these qualities about them. I would love for them to like bring me
imbue
along.
them upon me somehow
Like
when
can but and at the same time, that's so interesting too because most of the time good partnerships are that balance of like strengths and weaknesses, and you help the other develop in those areas and fill those gaps. But at the same time, like I cannot be walking on eggshells if we're going to an event, making sure that you're okay and not panicking. Like I
yeah,
need you to be able to handle yourself. I need to know that if you come to me and say like we really got to go, that like it's for like a legitimate a valid reason. Your feelings are valid, but
yeah,
like not just because the many reasons, or you feeling excluded because I've gone and socialized with other people and I'm making other friends. Like, yes, very much. Yes, I get that.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. You don't have to, you don't pick a partner to show up with a job to do for
I
you.
know.
and you can grow, like I can trust that, like, even if you didn't necessarily want to go, but you said yes, that you are here now, and I'm not going to now check on you all the time and make sure you're okay, because
Yes.
I could feel that you didn't really wanna go. You said yes. This is what happens when you say yes. So, if you didn't want to,
So
then
funny that you say
shoulda
that because there was last year. Uh-oh, I just froze. Give it a second to catch up.
okay. Yep.
Okay, there I am. Last year, my partner I was running a Disney race and I was like, do you want to go? Do you want to go? And for like 6 months, I don't know. I don't know. So like finally I was like, I'm just gonna ask my mom. Like, you clearly don't want to go, or you would have said yes. Well, it comes
Mhm.
time for, and I told him that, like, oh, mom's gonna go with me. He was still very taken aback that when it came time for me to leave for the trip, that he wasn't going. And like it was one of those conversation moments of like, we're both grown ups and you have to advocate and speak up for yourself. And I can only ask so many times. And in return, that's the same me for you.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, well, you're supposed to know that I was gonna say yes. No, 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 no. Like that's
No.
like grandma's from the 1950 baggage. Like,
Well,
of
it's
you're
also
supposed to know. No, I'm not supposed
yeah.
to know. You're supposed to be a grown up to articulate. But that comes from like that, like you said earlier, that self discovery and that self love of knowing, getting to know yourself so well that you just calmly have those interactions without it
Mhm.
being this volatile fight.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also, like, it's fair to say, like, I would like to do this event with someone who was an enthusiastic yes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if that's not going to be you, that's okay.
It's okay
Because
to say, I want to stay home.
and to get back to your comment earlier about, inviting me to do, like, the dance, right? That's inviting people to do anything, is that, like, your invitation is not about your expectation of their reply, right? Your invitation is an expression of your desire to have them join you. It's like, I'll know people are out of town and I'll invite them to do things because it's not about whether or not I'm inviting people who I think will say yes. I'm inviting somebody because I want them to know that I would love to see them and spend time with them.
Yes.
And I understand that they're out of town, right? I already knew
Yes.
that they were out of town, but I wanted them to know that they are wanted. And that is like what you do for people you care about.
Yes.
So, you
And
it's
not
not
out
a
of obligation, but out
yeah.
of like, I want to share this with you. And so, like, who am I to make a decision for you? Maybe your plans changed and I didn't know. I
Yeah.
want you to know you're welcome to
Yes.
join.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And and it's like taking I was just talking to someone today about taking initiative, right? And like everything, all these skills are great life skills, but they are muscles. Like letting go is a muscle, taking initiative is a muscle. You have to exercise it. So when you stick your neck out, which is how you grow and how you learn and how you show people you care about them, and you take initiative, you get better at it. It gets easier and you get more resilient over time with whatever a response might be. And it's the same thing with dating, and like just reaching out or just meeting new people, just expanding your network. It can feel daunting to go talk to new people and, just strike up conversations, but the more you do it and the more you become the host instead of waiting to get invited, right? You put yourself in positions where you get to meet new people instead of waiting for those things to just sort of happen at you. Like it gets easier and easier and you become more resilient with whatever the outcome is going to be, and you know that you have all the tools in your toolkit to try something new.
Yeah.
And that makes you stronger and it makes
It
you love
makes you more
yourself more.
attractive.
Yeah, it makes you way more attractive. It makes you
Yes.
love yourself more. People, say like, especially like, I mean, I live in Seattle. It's a really tough dating culture because people move here to become introverted and because of the weather.
Really? That is one. I have never been to Washington State, so I've never
It's
been to
beautiful.
Seattle.
It's absolutely beautiful, but you can have an entire personality based on hiking or having a dog, and that's absolutely acceptable. Like, you don't have to have anything else going for you. If you're like, "I love hiking," or "I have a Burmese mountain dog," and that's like your entire personality, that's okay. That's a a totally valid personality here, but it's narrow. And that's why a lot of writers live here is because you can just sit inside and write and you don't feel like you're missing anything because it's so drizzly and gray out. You're not. So it's a really tough dating culture. And then people who move here work a lot. A lot of times, if they're moving here for a job, they're working crazy hours. And so they will really have like a routine of, you get up, you go to work, you go to the gym, you get takeout, you come home to your apartment that's 2 blocks from your office, and then you play video games and you go to sleep and you start over again. When are you going to meet anyone?
Mm.
They're
So
not going to
when
walk into your apartment.
I at least not well, I hope not.
Yeah.
Where does that conversation go when you're working with people who are like that? Because I think that, like, while that might be very, I think that is, I live on the East Coast and there, it's very, not maybe not to the same extent, but like work is really, really important. And it is the number one, and everything else, you hope that they love you enough to support it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that they understand the late nights and the missed events and the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
So, for people who are looking to find love and are looking to deepen like relationships, to have someone to come home to after such a exhausting day of peopling and firefighting, and just have someone to be with who sees
Mm-hmm.
them and loves them and supports them through all of that and challenges them in like growth. What do you say, like, where does that conversation start? Where do they go? What do they do? How do you find love there?
Yeah. So I have never worked with any client who wasn't in some kind of cycle that wasn't serving this goal, right? It was serving another goal, but not this one. And so the first thing you have to do is you have to break your cycle. And like I've said, you have to stick your neck out a little bit. You got to try something new. And the the people want to focus on it was like over 70% of people have used dating apps, right? And people like go to that first, and I always think that's a side dish. It's never the main dish. You shouldn't be prioritizing that as the only way to meet people. But it feels the easiest and the most at hand, and it's we try it, see if it works for you. It's not a format that's going to work for everybody. I think the most important thing is to just focus on network expansion and self-growth. So, I will say this till I die, meetup groups, activity groups, show up, right? And I know that it can feel kind of daunting to go like, "Oh, I'm gonna go," especially by myself, because like when you get a friend to go with you, it kind of like defeats the purpose a little bit. I really recommend you go by yourself. If you need a friend, just make sure that you aren't only with your friend. And remember that all those people who showed up wanted to meet a new person too. That's why they're there. That's why
Yes.
they're there. You're the new person. They're the new person. That's why they showed up. So you all want the same thing. You're not like and they might know each other, right? They've all been hanging out. But the point that they're still working within the confines of like a meetup group, right? With this platform is that they know new people will show up and they want to meet new people. Or they would have like moved that group,
Or they would
would have
stop
taken
showing up.
yeah, they would have taken like the 6 of them who decided they're really close, and then they would have left the group and they do other things, right? They're still showing up to those scheduled events because they do want to meet new people, and you might be that new person. And it's not about are they single or this transaction. Like it's that you are expanding your network. You're meeting new people. You're getting more comfortable with meeting new people. You're getting more comfortable with breaking your cycle, and you don't know who anyone knows.
Right.
You don't know who people know, and you don't know who they could fix you up with. You don't know what thing they can introduce you to. You have no idea because you did not try. So
And
go
you didn't show up
try.
as yourself. You came with an agenda.
Yes, and like this is so funny. I read this. I was reading this Reddit dating story and it was cracking me up so hard because and this isn't like to put men on blast or anything, but this made me laugh so hard. And it was this guy who joined a group that sets up basically singles events, but it's like around like volunteering. And so he was like, "Oh, I went and it was at a food bank and we didn't really have a lot of time to like talk to each other." And the people who actually volunteered at the food bank, like the organizers at the food bank, were like, thought it was hilarious that this would be like a singles event because it's work. You're showing up to get work done. And he also said like, well, there were like way more women there than men. And like, I'm not complaining about that. I just thought that was like really interesting. And is it that like women care more about this kind of connection than men do? And I was like, oh my God, there's like 5 things in here. I have so much to say about like, I can't, like, my brain's gonna explode because it was like, first of
Yes.
all, first of all, women want values alignment and men should want it too. You should want values alignment, right? And if your values are giving back to the community, you would like to meet someone who also cares
Who
about that.
also values giving back to the community.
Yeah. And the idea that he's like, well, is it that women just care more about that? Yes. Yeah. Women are the community builders. Historically, that's always been the
This
case.
is the answer to your question when you think, how did he bag her? Like, when you look at a couple and you think it doesn't make sense, is because their core values aligned and there was something intrinsic that she was attracted and connected with,
Yes. And they
where
like,
he
and
is
they're,
now the most handsome man in the world to her.
yeah, yes. It's like, because the more, like, especially for women, like, the more you get to, and like, to men's benefit, the more you get to know them, the more attractive they get, right?
For
Because
men, I do think that I have a bias in from my own experiences that say that I believe it to be the opposite for men. I believe that they are more attracted in the beginning, and as they get to know you and they get to see like the frumpy hair, like it becomes less attractive and more like loving, but less attractive. Whereas women will love first and build attraction, and then they become one little ball of beautiful goo where they are the same. Like for men, it feels like they are very different things. Attraction and love are different.
100%. And like the thing about how men usually like pick partners is yeah, it's because of like physical attraction first, and then they get to know that person, and then they sort of like, I imagine like they're kind of, I don't know if it's like attraction or love for that person, be like this like wire they're trying to like bend around a form of this image
I'm
that they have of
yes.
the woman. And instead of like trying to align internally first and then having it grow. And I believe like it can, but it is really tough. I mean, have you ever like looked back at people you dated and you're like, at the time, I remember I would look at him and just think he was the most handsome man on earth. And now I'm like, ew, what a gross little rat man. Like, no, thank you. Right.
And I lucked out because you did not age well. And what was I thinking? Like,
And all they had to do was like probably like one absolutely terrible thing, right? Or like many terrible things, like, in shorts. And then you were like, all of a sudden, you're like, oh, no, no. Oh, no, no. And then you see pictures
and
back and you're like, what was I like? I was sitting there looking at him over dinner thinking, like, oh
aren't
God,
I
he's
so
so cute. I
lucky?
love him so much.
So much.
And now you see pictures and you're like,
Or you run into them in public and you're like, because all you can see is the ugliness.
now that's all you see, right?
All you see is the ugliness.
Yeah. And
And
I
you can
think
and you feel like they're used car salesmen or
And with attraction, it's kind of like the same way. I mean, ideally, it's the same way that love grows, right? And when you start out at the highest of the high, the only place to go is down. And wouldn't you want love to grow? When you talk to couples who've been together for, 30, 40, 50, 60 years and they're happy, right? We know that not everyone's happy, but if they're happy and you say like, do you love them more now than you did when you met? Absolutely. Absolutely. That love grew and grew and grew over time.
Yeah.
And
Because
what a
they're willing to invest in each other and
yes.
grow with each other and learn and celebrate each other through all of those evolutions of self, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
of course you love them more because they're a different person and you've like loved every inch of it. So it built up
And you saw how hard they worked and you saw what they went through and you saw
admiration.
how they partnered you through everything. And that's, that man, that's just what I want for everybody. I mean, that's why I do what I do. That I want that for everybody. If you want a relationship, I want that for you. I think that it's, living it now. And I mean, listen, I was married. I got divorced. I started my life over, and I mean from nothing. And I started over from nothing with an almost 7-year old. And like that was so hard. And I went through so much and I learned so many lessons. And I really like took some hard knocks there. But I almost gave up. And what if I had? What if I had? My partner, he made dreams come true I didn't know I had. He completed a family for me I didn't know was possible. Like that, and he taught me like how like we're both like individual people and we're intentionally together. There is no need involved. We don't need each other. We're intentionally here every day. We're intentionally choosing each other every day and being there for each other. And I don't think either of us wakes up every day and doesn't think like, how can I make sure that this person feels my love today? What can I do today?
That
And that is like, that's how you lift, right? That's how you grow together. We know like this is, we're going to empty nest. So, and it's like, do you, I could not have empty nested with my ex-husband. That would have not, that would not have been the life I wanted. Like, so you have to think about like this person, like there are a lot of stages we're going to go through. And man, I read this thing a long time ago. And I've always thought about it because I think that there's a lot of truth to it, is that you really go through 4 stages in your life as an adult, and your needs are kind of different in those 4 stages. And so that's kind of when people get divorced or break up and find a different partner because the partner that they had for the previous stage wasn't quite the right one. And
mm,
that's also why sometimes people get divorced, they're apart for a while, then they get back together, which is kind of beautiful because that partner was the right partner for more than one stage. And
yeah.
so, you know, you
What was that book? What was the book? Do you remember?
I don't even, this was so long
I'm
ago.
like ready to write it down. I
I was
love a good personal
probably a
development book.
teenager, but it's basically, your first stage is like that's like it's kind of like sex. It's attraction, it's all that. The second stage is like raising kids together. And then the third is kind of that like new like adult independence. And then the fourth is like your spiritual kind of,
Hmm.
you're kind of you're getting close to end of life. You're thinking about other things, right? Than sort of the things that have occupied you. And so, the person you raise your kids with is maybe not the person you grow spiritually with later. And it's wonderful to have somebody for all those stages and to say like this is the right person, but you also need to like maybe allow for the fact that that's not the case. And that's
Ah,
that's
this
okay.
has been so, so good. I feel like I could literally like sit here and talk to you for the next 4 hours.
I would
Like
I'll talk.
you are now my friend and welcome to the party. No, this was so, so good, so real, so relevant. And I just thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
bringing you to the show and all of your experiences and your journey and like how you show up in your career with you as well. And so like as we're wrapping up, What is one thing that you would like to leave the listeners with?
Don't compare love. Don't get tied up in one experience of love and think that if it's not, that it's going to be the same every time. Every single person is different, which means every relationship is different because every dynamic with every single person is different. So your love is going to be different. So don't compare it, and don't hold on to a vision of love, especially an early vision of love, as your standard bearer for love.
I feel like I need a mic. Pen drop. Boop. That's so that like that just hits the nail on the head. Caroline, how do people connect with you outside of the show?
Oh yeah, so I have a website called the Six Steps Path, and I have my program in one-on-one coaching, and I also am on TikTok where I kind of ramble on too long, pretty similar to what you heard here. And on Instagram, and those are both CHM Six Steps. And on Facebook, the Six Steps Path page, you can find me there, and I have other ways to connect there too. So I'd
Oh, so exciting.
love to
I
connect
will
there.
drop those in the show notes so you can go connect with her. Go be a human. Go connect with another human in this world. Like connection is so important, as you've heard in this conversation today. So go make a friend. So, Caroline, thank you so much for being here. And with that, that's Two Humans Talking. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this episode as inspiring and actionable as I did. If you're ready to stop just surviving and start living a life where your health, your relationships, and your career work together without the burnout, then it's time that you join the Modern Women's Society. Inside, I'll walk you through my life GPS system, a proven blueprint to help you have it all while thriving. You'll gain tools, coaching, and the kind of clarity that brings big dreams to life without the stress, overwhelm, guilt, and shame that the modern woman is used to. We're going to create a life where you feel energized and excited to wake up every day and fulfilled when you put your head on the pillow. Click the link below to learn more and join countless other women who are redefining success on their terms. Because the life you've dreamed about is closer than you think. I'll see you on the inside.